Wednesday, the 26th of February 2025. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia and therefore coffee time on West Coast Radio. On YouTube, our partner is Jah Oil.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
Bishop Bannie E.F. Manga is already in the studio. Good morning, Most Reverend Bannie Manga.
Good morning, Uncle Peter, and good morning to all our viewers.
Happy anniversary tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. If you weren't here this hour, where would you have been and what might you have been doing?
Oh, generally on Wednesday I would have been in the office, but today I'm from here. I'm going to another meeting where we're trying to discuss issues relating to the state and what can be done to move our nation forward.
Fantastic, fantastic. Are you a news junkie? Do you follow the news a lot? And if yes, how do where do you go for your news?
I do follow the news because it's important that you're up to date with what is going on around. So it depends on which time of the day. If it's in the morning and I'm off to work and I'm driving, then I would be listening to Coffee Time.
Ah, fantastic.
And
just what we wanted you to say this morning. Bishop is with us for the whole hour.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
I'm not going to ask you which is your favorite newspaper, because then that puts you in trouble with maybe an editor friend, an editor reporter, church member, and all of that. But when you pick up the newspapers, when you tune into radio stations and television, do you sense that the real news of the day is covered, or do you find some sensationalism as tends to be the trend these days in the news, especially, given the influence of social media now?
First, I usually would think, what is the purpose of journalism? Is it just to give information, or is it to give an alternative voice to issues that are being discussed? And very solemnly, do you hear alternative voices? You would see a lot of criticisms, you will see a lot of what I will think sometimes are political inferences and emotional touch here and there. But I would expect that the journalists would see that this is what is going on and proffer various alternatives. And so whoever is working in other institutions will be like, oh, wow, we didn't think about it this way. Maybe we could try this. Maybe we could do this. In that way, we will be progressive. But if we just sit down and all that we do is, oh, yeah, this is what has happened, and then we start lamenting. Government is not them. It's all of us working together. And if all of us are working together and looking at solutions to our problems, then I'm sure we would be a bit better than where we are.
Absolutely. Bishop Manga is with us for the full hour. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez, courtesy of our headline sponsors as well as these additional sponsors. It's Wednesday, the 26th of February 2025, and live on West Coast Radio, I am Peter Gomez. This is Coffee Time. On YouTube, we are sponsored by Jah Oil. Our guest today is the Most Reverend Bishop Bannie Ebenezer Manga, presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church in the Gambia, and African Regional Officer for the World Methodist Council. Bishop Manga also currently serves as chairman of the Gambia Christian Council. He speaks exclusively to West Coast Radio and Coffee Time, for that matter, on the eve of the 3rd anniversary of his consecration as presiding bishop. I'm sure you remember the day very well. 27th of February it was, 2022?
Yes, it was.
All right. Well, there's a lot that you remember of the day. What's the fondest thing you remember of the day?
Looking at the possibilities that the Methodist Church, the Gambia, is poised with. When I was coming into that service and we were processing, and I was looking around at the people solemnly entering the cathedral.
Yeah, it's still on YouTube, by the way, for those of you who want to relive the moment.
And I was like, there is hope. There is hope for the country. I was also very mindful of some of the things that have existed before that day. A lot of people have labeled me as a very young person, and so I was very mindful that, yes, it is okay to be labeled a young person, but it's also an opportunity to show what young people can do. Mm-hmm. So I was very, very conscious of that. It was also one time in my life when I think every member of my family was gathered together in one place, and that was very emotional for me.
Fantastic. We'll talk about this youth thing later on in this conversation. But how did it all begin? How did you come into, clergy life?
Interesting question. I think it started in February 1990.
This month, special month, February.
Yes. It was, I think, Bishop Tillery Johnson's enthronement at the cathedral. And so I recall I was sitting next to my grandmother, Hannah Caroline Majula, Bricksman. And after he was enthroned, I turned to her and I said, I can be like this man. And she just turned, looked at me, rolled her eyes and said, we go talk about this after. After church.
Was that an encouragement or a slight telling off?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay, all right.
And after church, I said to her, Sissy, I tell you, say, I go be like this man one day. And she didn't say anything. When we got home, she said, Bannie, no food for you 1 week. You too lie. And I'll never forget that. So one week I was not supposed to be eating in the house. I ran away from her house and I stopped going there for weekends and all of that because I cannot imagine not eating. But the interesting thing is the next day I went to school. I was in Laos, I was in primary 4. And my teacher, Mr. Jean Baptiste, I'm still looking for that man. Immediately I entered the classroom, he stopped everyone, that was about 8:10, and said, from now onwards, nobody calls him Bannie. He will be called Reverend Bannie.
Oh.
How that happened, no one can tell. And so my colleagues all started calling me Reverend, Pastor, from primary 4, 1990 February. I think the more they called me Pastor and Reverend, the more I was even stubborn because I cannot fathom seeing myself being Reverend. And not only that, I was denied a week of not eating food. So the title Reverend was nothing to write home about. Fast forward, I think it was sometime in 1993, 94. I was in grade 8. And young man, I was trying to chase someone. So I was trying to chase Jainaba, my wife. And I couldn't understand why is it that you're chasing this girl and she's quoting scripture to you. And it's just not something I can understand. How come this lady knows more scripture than me?
So the first time you approached her, she quoted a line from the Bible to say, well, young man, you're going too fast.
And I thought, no. So instead of reading my chemistry and biology and general science and all of that, I started reading the Bible just to be able to get to her.
To measure up.
Well, yes. And I think the more I started reading the Bible, I started getting in love with it. And so I am where I am, thanks to Jainaba and thanks to also all the others who have contributed in shaping me to where I am.
Fantastic.
And so when I finished school, grade 12 in 98, I was very resolute that this is what I want to do. And yes, I recall it was Reverend Pratt, now most Reverend Pratt, who was then the head of church. And they wanted to send me straight into Ghana with my colleague, Reverend Shaka. Now, I recall my church, Bethel Church, said I'm too young. So there were attempts to block it. I now know some of the reasons why they attempted to block it.
Do you accept those reasons now?
No.
At the time, probably you didn't.
No, I still don't.
You still don't.
I can talk about it. Some people had personal grievances against most Reverend Titus Pratt. And consequently, they thought I was his boy. So let's block him in a quest to get to Reverend Pratt. So that opened an avenue for me. So instead of going to Ghana to commence my ministerial training, I now had to go to Cliff in the UK to start my training. Had a year at Cliff and came back. Then I had to serve at the Trinity Methodist Church for a year before going to Ghana. I was supposed to do 6 years. By God's grace, I was able to do 4 years. So after 2 years, I was commissioned, what we will call a deacon, in June 2003. And I finished in 2005. In 2006, I was ordained. Then 2007, I was supposed to go for studies for my second degree. Again, this time I'll save the name. A minister wrote, and I have a copy of that, he's too young to have a master's degree. Okay. And so it was delayed. In 2008, it was the British church that said, if Bannie is not coming, no one is coming. And so my papers had to be tendered again. And the British church, Methodist church, forwarded my papers to Chevlin, and so I'm a Chevlin scholar, and I was accepted, and I went to the University of Birmingham for my second degree, and since then I've come back and I've served in various capacities, and now I'm serving as presiding bishop.
Fantastic. We'll talk about that in a moment, but going back to Jainaba, how has she helped? Well, she inspired you to read the Bible where you found inspiration. to be ordained. But since your consecration as presiding bishop, or throughout your ministry, how has she been of assistance?
Well, sometimes when you are a leader, very solemnly will people come directly to you and tell you, I think you're wrong, or what you did is not right. You will hear people talk about it here and there, but very solemnly will someone come and tell you directly that you're wrong. In Jainaba, you have that. She doesn't appear as if she speaks in public. She's very quiet.
I was going to say, well, she cuts a different figure in public.
But if you get that woman next to you and she starts, you realize, I've just gotten it wrong, and you just have to apologize. One example, I remember a friend of mine said to me, hey, Bannie, it's a long time I've heard you preach. So where are you preaching on Sunday? And I said, I'm preaching at this place. And he decided to come. When he was coming, he came with his girlfriend. And for some reason, I was not prepared for that service. I didn't read the readings and anything. The first reading was about do not commit adultery. Everybody in the church saw that man with the girlfriend. You know, things. This is a small community. We all know what. Then the epistle reading was about be holy, and the gospel reading was also about anyone who commits adultery, you know. And then it was time to preach. Everyone was looking at me.
Because your friend was right there in front of you.
Well, the scriptures for that day were having to speak about that. So I turned to the organist and I said, please play a hymn. And the organist, for some reason, also played a hymn, I want a principle within of God, jealous, godly fear. Oh, wow. Now, how are you going to preach now? And everybody knew that typically Bannie will just go on top of it. This time I bowed my head and I said, okay, I'm going to read the scriptures again to you. And after reading the scriptures back to them, then I said, he who has ears, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. And I went to sit down. I never said a word. After church, everybody's like, oh, Bishop, thank you. Well, then I was Reverend, thank you for the service. And Jainaba said, you damn hypocrite. If it was someone else, the wall will come down. But because it's your friend, you never said something. So now, if that was a very serious rebuke. And then I had to literally check myself that, hey, you're supposed to speak God's word in and out of season, with or without your friends. You're supposed to stand by what is believed to be truth. And that was a staunch rebuke, and I still remember that experience.
Well done, Jainaba. It's 3 years tomorrow since your consecration. What are some achievements that you are proud of since taking over as presiding bishop?
Well, I wouldn't say what I'm proud of. I will say what we all are proud of, because I think we've all done it together. I felt when we just started, there were a lot of divisions in the church. There were lots of camp. I hope it has gone down now, and we all seeing the bigger picture of serving the church together. I'm really pleased that in these 3 years, ministers have gotten a stipend rise so that they can be more comfortable to do the work that God has called us. I am also pleased that all ministers now have a vehicle that they are using to be able to do their work. Yeah. We're glad that we have been able to build some few churches. We have one in C4 that will be dedicated very soon. We also have for the youth ministry, we have a coaster that we have purchased for them. We have sound system, electronic keyboards for that. We are equally pleased that in Janjambure there is quite a lot of work that is going on. We are in the process of having a hostel there so that the funds there will be able to support the ministry there. Every circuit has a minister resident now within its walls. We're also glad that Gambia is now again on the Africa picture and the global picture as well. So in FECWA, which we are trying to revive, we're serving in the advisory committee. FECWA is Fellowship of Christian Councils in West Africa. We're also serving in the AACC, so I serve within the AACC as one of the governors. We are also serving in World Methodist Council as the Africa coordinator. We are within the World Council of Churches. So Gambia is supposedly now on the world platform as well. Locally as well, we are pleased that this year we would be ordaining 2 Gambians locally, and I'm pleased to say that for the ordination, Most Reverend Titus Pratt is coming in July to do it. We're happily looking forward to that because all our ministers as of now are products, as it were, of Most Reverend Titus Pratt. Next year, God willing, we are looking at the possibilities of commissioning deacons, 5 Gambians as well.
Wow.
3 are already in Nigeria doing studies, 2 are here. One is two at the University of Gambia. One is doing a master's program at the university, and one is doing a bachelor's program in Christian studies. So I think we're trying.
No, a lot has happened, in fact. And given that you took over at a time when the whole world was emerging from the ravages of the pandemic, COVID-19, it would seem the Methodist Church in the Gambia hasn't been affected in any adverse way. The Catholic Church, to which I belong, is still, recovering from the effects of the pandemic.
True, the pandemic affected all of us, but I believe that when the people see what is being done and they are part of what is being done, there are lots of resources available, both human and otherwise, in our midst. And so once people see what is being done, they would support, they would want to identify with it. I'm equally very pleased to say that Gambians have been supporting ministry in diverse ways. And I want to put it on record. I have someone who came to me and said, Bishop, I never thought this can be done in Gambia. This is $15,000. Wow. This is, we're building the Methodist Boys High School. We thought we should preserve the heritage of the building. It's costing us $7 million to do that. Someone came to me and said, Bishop, here is $8,000 towards this. This is this amount. And once people see that you're accountable, you're being honest with their funds, I'm sure people will continue to support. And so it should be put on record that there are lots of people in this nation who have been generous, who have been supporting, and who have been helping us in our quest to move the church forward.
Fantastic. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez live on West Coast Radio. On YouTube, we're sponsored by Jah Oil.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.